Carried out November 26, 1983 by a group of 6 armed men, they entered the Brink's Securities Depot. The team got away with the equivalent of £100 million today. How did the Brink's robbery turn into a nightmare? And how did Mossack Fonseca help hide millions in Britain's greatest gold bullion robbery? To uncover the details, make sure to check out last week's episode of the greatest robberies in history. You can find a link in the description box below. It's been a total of 15 years since a gang of 7 men wearing balaclavas burst into a cash depot in Tonbridge, England, tied up the 14 members of staff, and stole a bounty of millions of pounds destined for the Bank of England. They had automatic weapons, they had masks, they had a daring, flawed, and curious plan. They got the cash, but how would they make it all disappear? Before we get into the terrifying Tonbridge ordeal, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell for more of the greatest robberies in history videos. Without any further ado, let's get to today's episode. In the early morning hours of February 22, 2006, a gang, some of them armed, stole £53 million from the Securitas Bank Depot in Kent, Great Britain. The violent heist began the evening before when 2 men, dressed as police officers and wearing prosthetic masks, stopped depot manager Colin Dixon on the 8249 near Stockbury. He was on his way home to Herne Bay. They convinced him to get out of his car and forced him into their vehicle. At about the same time, 2 more men visited Dixon's home and picked up Dixon's wife and 8-year-old son. Eventually, all 3 Dixons were taken to a farm in West Kent, where the gang threatened their lives if Colin refused to cooperate with the robbery. The depot manager, his wife, and son were taken to the Securitas Depot in Tonbridge at around 1 a.m., traveling in a plain white van held at gunpoint. At the depot, 14 members of staff were bound by robbers armed with handguns, shotguns, a scorpion, and AK-47s wearing balaclavas. The robbery came to an end at approximately 2:45 a.m. The staff, along with Mr. Dixon's wife and son, were left locked in cash cages. However, one member of staff had a key to unlock the cage she was locked in. She was then able to free the others. It was another half an hour before staff members who'd been tied up managed to raise the alarm. Police officers arriving on the scene discovered staff, the manager and his family all bound but physically unharmed. The Bank of England, to whom the money belonged, was reimbursed £25 million by Securitas AB the same day and assured the public that Securitas would make up any additional loss. Investigation and arrests. Securitas and their insurers offered a reward of £2 million for information leading to the thieves' capture. On the 23rd of February 2006 at around 7 p.m., police confirmed the arrest in Forest Hill, South London, of a man aged 29 and a woman aged 31 on suspicion of conspiracy to commit robbery. There were thought to be at least 6 armed robbers involved. On the same day, a 41-year-old woman was arrested at the Portman Building Society branch in Bromley in South London by the Metropolitan Police. The woman was moved to a police station in Kent to be questioned by detectives on suspicion of handling stolen goods. According to some news reports, she was dressed as a Salvation Army nurse and apparently tried to deposit £6,000 in cash bound in tape marked Tonbridge. As the investigation progressed, police traced a number of vehicles involved in the robbery, including a parcel force van thought to have been used in the abduction of the depot manager and his family. The van was found abandoned at the Hook and Hatchet pub in the village of Hucking near Maidstone. A Volvo S60 and a red Vauxhall Vectra, also thought to have been used and made to look like unmarked police cars in the abductions, were found in the village of Leeds near Leeds Castle overnight on the 23rd of February. The Volvo had apparently been set alight. On the same day, Colin Dixon's Nissan Almera was also found in the car park of the Cock Horse pub in Detling. The next day, Kent police recovered a white Ford Transit van from the car park of the Ashford International Hotel. The van was found after a tip-off from a member of the public. The van and its contents were taken away from the hotel for forensic examination, and on the 26th of February 2006, it was announced that the van contained 1.3 million pounds, alongside guns, balaclavas, and body armor. Metal cages and packaging material that may have been used to transport the money were recovered near a field near Detling on the 24th of February 2006. On the evening of the 25th of February, forensic teams, accompanied by armed police officers, also raided a house in Southborough near Tunbridge Wells. On the afternoon of the next day, Kent police challenged two men who then fled in a blue BMW 3 Series coupe on a marine parade in Tankerton near Whitstable. Police marksmen then appeared to shoot out at least one tire, bringing the car to a halt and arresting the driver and one other man nearby. Other reports have suggested the police may have in fact used a stinger device. On the 27th of February 2006, two individuals were detained by police in the Greenwich area of London by armed officers. The following day, the white 7.5-ton Renault Midland lorry allegedly used to transport the stolen money was eventually recovered by police at an undisclosed location. Simultaneously, Kent police raided Elderton Farm in the Staplehurst area, apparently conducting extensive forensic searches of the surrounding land and buildings and seizing vehicles. Searches of local wells were also undertaken by police divers. The farm was owned by a local car dealer who could not be located at the time of the raid. A further arrest also took place of a woman who became the 12th person detained during the investigation, most of whom have subsequently been released on bail. And before we move on to the identity of the robbers, take a second to subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends, and let them join us on our journey of the greatest robberies series. Late on March 1, 2006, Kent police confirmed that John Fowler, a car dealer and owner of Elderton Farm, had been charged with conspiracy to rob Securitas and 3 charges of kidnapping. Stuart Royal had been charged with conspiracy to rob, and Kim Shackleton had been charged with handling stolen goods. They appeared at Maidstone Magistrates Court on the 2nd of March and remained in custody until the 13th of March when they appeared at Maidstone Crown Court. Jet Meerbrook Papa was charged with conspiracy to commit robbery the next day, and Lee John Rusha was charged with the same offense the day after. Both appeared in court on the 3rd of March and were remained in custody until a preliminary hearing at Maidstone Crown Court on the 13th. Also on the 2nd of March, during a raid on an industrial depot in Welling, a currently unknown amount of cash was discovered and a further arrest was made. It has been reported that the amount of money is several million pounds. A further arrest was made in the Bexley area of London on the Saturday 4th of March in connection with the robbery. The man was subsequently released on bail, bringing the total number of arrests at that stage to 17. By March 6, police had recovered £11 million as a result of various raids and forensic searches. The next day, 2 employees of a firm that had been contracted by Securitas were arrested. By March 9th, police had recovered £19.7 million as a result of various raids and searches. On June 25, 2006, in a joint operation with Moroccan police, 4 men were arrested at a shopping center in the Sweezy district of the capital Rabat. Kent police said in a statement that they had been tracking Lee Murray, a 26-year-old from Sidcup, South London, for 3 months. Murray was arrested with friend Paul the Enforcer Allen, whom police wished to interview but on whom there was no sufficient evidence at the time to charge. There is no treaty between the UK and Morocco, which made this difficult. Later, Moroccan police revealed that Murray had also been charged with possession of hard drugs. An officer said this could complicate extradition proceedings because in theory Murray would have to serve time in Morocco first for any offenses committed there. Kent police confirmed Murray's arrest the next day and also stated that over 30 people had now been arrested in conjunction with the investigation. The Daily Mail gave the total number of arrests as 36 by the end of June 2006. By year's end, the investigation costs for the Kent police had swelled to £6 million, with aid requested from the Home Office towards their investigation cost. In December 2006, Sean Lupton, who had been released on bail, was missing, having failed to answer the conditions of his bail. Also in February 2007, Murray's lawyer speculated that Murray could be returned from Morocco to Britain in exchange for suspected terrorist Mohamed Karbouzi, who was wanted for questioning by the Moroccan authorities in connection with the 2003 Casablanca bombings. The trial. The trial began on June 26, 2007 at the Old Bailey in London, presided over by Justice David Penry Davey. The first 3 weeks of the trial focused on the role of the manager Colin Dixon, with the defense cross-examination highlighting coincidence in his conduct which might be interpreted as suggesting he was the inside man. On January 28, 2008, the jury returned guilty verdicts on Stuart Royal, Jetmir Bukpapa, Roger Coutts, Leah Rusha, and Amir Hissenaj. The next day, Amir Hissenaj was sentenced to 20 years in prison with an order that he serve a minimum of 10. Stuart Royal, Leah Rusha, Jetmir Bukpapa, and Roger Coutts were given life sentences, with orders to serve a minimum of 15 years. Prosecutors later decided to drop charges against Kim Shackleton, Raluca Millen, and Katie Phillip, the girlfriends of Royal, Bukpapa, and Rusha respectively. Millen and Phillip had been charged with conspiracy to rob, conspiracy to kidnap, and conspiracy to possess firearms. Shackleton had been charged with assisting an offender. John Fowler, on whose property some of the money was found, Michelle Hogg, who made the gang's prosthetic disguises, and Keith Bohr were all also acquitted. Since the completion of both Trial 1 and 2, Kane-eyed Kane Peterson, whom the police and CPS believed to be a key player in both the robbery and kidnapping, still remains missing, presumably residing in the West Indies with a large quantity of the stolen money. On June 1, 2010, Murray was jailed in Morocco for 10 years for his part in the robbery. The sentence was later increased to 25 years. Kent Police Detective Superintendent Keith Judge said, "I'm pleased that Murray has now been held accountable." The missing millions. After the night of the Securitas raid, £21 million of the Bank of England cash was recovered relatively quickly. But since then, just £50,000 of the still missing £32 million haul has been successfully traced. So what exactly happened to all of that missing cash? 5 years ago, the opinion of former Superintendent Nick Bittis was that finding the money would be easier than finding a needle in a haystack. But reflecting on the heist 15 years later, one forensic expert still struggles to grasp exactly how those responsible succeeded in making £32 million disappear into thin air. Robert Green OBE is the former head of science and technology for the Police and Crime Standards Directorate. He was tasked with ensuring forensic science was being used in the most effective way to combat criminal activities, and was also involved in debates at the Home Office around the Proceeds of Crime Act 2002, an act of Parliament which contains the principal money laundering legislation in the UK. He is now a reader in forensic science at the University of Kent. The lifelong forensic specialist said the power of tracking cash in criminal cases was proven with Peter Sutcliffe, whose crimes were traced in part by a £5 note he left on the body of Jean Jordan, who he murdered and left in a Manchester allotment. That £5 note was a significant lead, the note that was traced back from the mint to a particular company and then finished up in Sutcliffe's pay packet, so there's that degree of traceability to notes. Nowadays, there's even more of an electronic track on this money than there previously was. In some respects, the more money you have, it gives you more clues which is right, but it adds more to the complexity of the inquiry. Tracing one £5 note versus trying to trace God knows how many £10 notes or 20s, it does add complexity to a case. According to Mr. Green, there are several possible outcomes for the missing money. It could either be carefully hidden away somewhere not being touched, or meticulously laundered over a number of years. But that much money would require a carefully planned operation on a huge scale. If you were to launder this money through traditional means, it would take an awful lot of time and effort to launder this in small amounts so it doesn't raise alarm bells. Money laundering generally requires a business which handles cash more than any other means of payment, businesses like taxis or ice cream trucks. But if your local Mr. Whippy van began claiming to earn thousands of pounds a month, officials would notice quickly. And yet, Kent police told Kent Online that the search for the missing money has hit a dead end. Detective Chief Superintendent Paul Fotheringham, head of major crime at the Kent and Essex Serious Crime Directorate, said, "Whilst the 2006 Securitas robbery is not currently a live investigation, it remains subject to regular review, and we continue to appeal for anyone with information to come forward. In the 15 years since the crime was committed, we've made inquiries around the world to both identify those responsible and recover the outstanding cash that was taken, and we will continue to act on any new evidence that may come to the light in the future." 7 people were convicted for their roles in the kidnap and robbery, and around £20 million of the stolen money has been recovered to date. In the time that has passed since the incident, it is clear that a large amount of the remaining money is now untraceable, although we are continuing to explore opportunities via the Proceeds of Crime Act to seize assets from those involved. Another possibility is the cash was whisked away to a country with bank secrecy laws, making it nigh on impossible to recover. Whatever happened to the missing millions over the last 15 years, Mr. Green struggles to believe the group of men now behind bars were capable of disappearing that amount of money. After all, they did get caught. On the one hand, these offenders were very forensically aware, you could almost say professional, but they were very amateurish in other ways. Aftermath. In February 2013, Malcolm Constable, who is believed by his brother Derek to be associated with the robbery, was found dead of a self-inflicted shotgun wound. Kent police stated they had no record of any incidents involving Constable. The 2004 Northern Bank robbery in Belfast, Northern Ireland, was known as the biggest cash robbery in UK history after £26.4 million was seized, a record that has been broken by the Tonbridge raid. The raid has also been compared to the Great Train Robbery of 1963, where an inflation-adjusted £40 million was stolen, and the Graff's robbery, where nearly £40 million worth of jewels was stolen by 2 armed men who walked into Graff Diamonds, Bond Street, London, in August 2009. Well, that's it for today's video. Tell us what you want to see next in the Greatest Robberies in History series in the comments section below, and tell us your thoughts. Also, don't forget to check out the previous episodes by clicking the links in the description below.